if you look in the appendix where we have the tables, you can see that we broke down all the uses by the type, 7-Eleven, the short-term, Zipcar, unrestricted parking. So, I mean, we did break it down with all kind of uses that are allowed to park in the garage.
Okay. And is for the applicant with respect to signage. What is how is this going? How are these parking spaces that are going to be available for public use going to be communicated to the general public?
Sure, I can field that. This is Vehicular with Focus. The operations side of how we would accomplish this is yet to be finalized. There's a variety of things that we're considering and pursuing at this point, ranging from daily parking to weekly and monthly parking to any sort of long-term agreements with any neighboring properties. So obviously with that, there's sort of different ways in which we would allocate the stalls and how that would work. But generally speaking, to answer your question, it'd be really similar to effectively what E2 has done down the street. And I know they, within the last 5 years, did a very similar process to allow for public use. A lot of online reservations, be it Spot Hero or anything else. Obviously, we could consider signage on the building if in fact we're looking for daily parkers just to be able to see that that the parking is available. We haven't considered exactly what that looks like, but again, it's going to be kind of determined based on how exactly we continue and who that user is, if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. I don't think I have any other questions. Do any commissioners have any questions before I open up to public questions and comment?
Oh, Chair Isaac, I want to interject that the meeting is being recorded. I don't think it was connected properly before. I just want to make sure that that is known. It's being recorded.
I've got a question for the applicant on the parking counts once more. So the parking study does have these times where it's got close to 90 cars in the garage, and in the presentation it said that it's only being used by 70 leases or somewhere around there, that there's 100 vacant spaces. So that doesn't quite align with that. What are these other cars in there if it's only has 70 leases?
No, it's a good question. The weekend the parking study was done happened to be, we became fully leased actually just at that moment. So it was done, I believe, over the first weekend of October. So we had a lot of move-ins. So we really honestly see that as sort of the kind of maximum use, being that it is a move-in weekend. So there were a lot of cars assisting people moving in and out. And you'll see as we get through the weekend, that number trails down. Certainly the Thursday and Friday, there's a lot more activity in the building, and then towards Saturday and obviously into the rest of the year, there's less. But I can say, the 62 number is how many residents actually have an actual agreement to lease a stall. So then it's up to the property management team, frankly, to police and make sure that no one that isn't allowed to be parking in the building is not parking in the building. But I would say that weekend in particular, there just were a lot of additional vehicles around for move-ins. And I think going forward, assuming we had some ability to use the stalls for public use, there would be a requirement for those additional vehicles to actually pay for the use of those stalls instead of just sort of freely parking throughout.
Okay, thanks for that. Is there currently gates?
There are, without going back to the plan, and we can, the ground level does not have any gates. So the 60 or so stalls on the ground level is certainly essentially open access from the alley side to Emerson. There is a gate going up to the mezzanine level and down to the lower level for secured parking and residents that do have an agreement they get a clicker essentially to operate that gate.
Okay, thanks.
And so the plan would be then to move those gates or add a second gate or third gate at the entrance.
Yeah, the infrastructure additions again are one of those things that's being discussed to determine exactly how we want to do this. Is policing it with the property management team reasonable? Perhaps, but it may become a situation where we just want to add some gate arms at the entries of the garage just to make sure that we're keeping out folks that haven't paid for the parking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Any other questions from commissioners? All right, we'll open it up to questions from the public. Anyone that's on the call, if you'd like to, no, I don't believe anyone signed up to ask questions or make comments. Now is the time to ask questions of the applicant. I would ask they not be rhetorical or argumentative, rather seeking to elicit facts and information regarding the applicant's request. So having said that, is there anyone from the public that would like to ask any questions with respect to this this item? Okay, hearing none. Is there any member of the public that would like to make a comment with respect to this item, expressing their opinion, whether in support or against the proposal of the applicant? Okay, hearing none, we will close the record of public comment. And again, I'll ask the commissioners if they have any questions for the applicant before we move into deliberations. I have a question for Ms. Jones with respect to this, with respect to the recommendation that that this item, I'm sorry, that the amount of spaces available be reviewed from time to time. I believe the recommendation was an annual recommendation. Ms. Jones, can you run through like how you foresee that if this were to pass and your recommendation were to be incorporated, how would that work?
Well, we anticipate that on an annual basis, we'd get a report, actually, I think similar to what was recently submitted a few weeks ago, that basically discuss current number of parking spaces leased to the public versus residents, how many of those parking spaces are being used, and just a general breakdown of how that is operating. At that point, then we'd analyze and see if we need to make any further adjustments to what's required to be leased to the building residents. Also, we'd probably be looking or be listening for any complaints or anything like that that we may hear that may arise from time to time, and see if we need to interject and make changes sooner.
Do you know how the city enforces wheel tax for vehicles that are parked in that are not parked on the street, that are parked in, on private property? How does that work? I mean, are you looking at you have access to vehicles that are registered to addresses in the city of Evanston with the Secretary of State, the information that the Secretary of State shares with you to allow you to enforce the wheel tax. And Ms. Nyden, maybe this is your, I saw you just put your camera on.
I'm here. Hi, everybody. Yes, we are provided files to, I think it's 10 or 30 days after somebody relocates to a new address. The state requires you to update your vehicle registration. So we get at some interval of time, we get information from the Secretary of State on vehicles registered in Evanston. So assuming that the residents of buildings have followed the state of Illinois laws, then we have that information.
Okay. All right. Any other commissioners have any questions or would like to make any comments with respect to this item? Like, what do you think about the 85, the request for 85 spaces to be available to the public? There would be 100. I guess we're looking at two different things, right? Agreeing that the applicant only has to provide 170 spaces versus 174, which in my mind is seems reasonable, and these types of issues happen with construction, where you end up losing a space or two because of some field issue. So I see that as in my mind, I'm going to vote for approval of that. On the use of 85 spaces for public use, that would leave 79 spaces, which it sounds like, based on the current almost full occupancy and the current mix of residents, that would still leave them with spaces for residents that would currently using any spaces. So does that seem appropriate?
I don't have a particular problem. I mean, I think that the important thing is that the spaces exist, they've been built, and to the extent you can, the applicant can find, others in the neighborhood or commuters, actually I'd rather have the commuters go in the city garages that we already have, but there certainly are, that neighborhood is pretty heavily parked with students and others, and if they can entice them into having sheltered, protected parking, I think that that's kind of a win-win for both the applicant and the neighborhood and the city, quite frankly. The spaces exist now. I agree that 170 are the spaces that exist, so it seems silly not to approve that reduction. And again, the applicant controls the spaces. So if it turns out more tenants have cars and want to have parking, they can adjust their program to accommodate more of their tenants. So I think that the proposal is a reasonable one.
Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners?
I'd concur with that statement, and I'd just say that this is really interesting to hear after we get so many proposals about reducing parking in TOD areas. So I think this is an interesting case study, looking at it 2 years later, that it's only a half full.
Well, and I think this was the last one that was approved before, last plan development that was approved before the TOD regulations were enacted. And this was the one where there was concern about the use of the alley, which this site is directly west across the alley from the HACC site that we just looked at. Well, this was in December. There was a lot of discussion about the vehicles and use of the alley, and there's a lot of engagement by the residents of Sherman Gardens, which I would note that we are not getting much engagement on from those residents on this request. So I think I would take that as a sign of I guess either indifference or assent. All right. So why don't we put up the standards? Okay, so standards for plan development says a special use plan development involves such special considerations of the public interest that it shall be required to adhere to the specific plan development standards established in the zoning district in which it is located. Compliance with the standards shall govern the recommendation of the plan commission applicable to a plan development and the action of the city council in order to ensure that an approved plan development is in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance. The Plan Commission shall not recommend approval of, nor shall the City Council approve, a plan development unless each shall determine, based on written findings of fact, that the plan development satisfies the specific standards established in the zoning district in which plan development is located. Okay, that's a mission statement and not an item we have to say whether it's satisfied or not satisfied or not applicable. So let's move to the next slide. All right, standards and guidelines for plan developments in the C1A district. 1, each plan development shall be compatible with surrounding development and shall not be of such a nature in height, bulk, or scale as to exercise any influence contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance as set forth in section 6-1-2, purpose and intent. I would say that this is either not applicable or satisfied based on the amendment that we're being asked to amendment to the plan development that we're being asked to review today. Number 2, each plan development shall be compatible with and implement the adopted comprehensive general plan as amended and the adopted land use and urban design plan specific to the area, this zoning ordinance, and any other pertinent city planning and development policies. I don't think
Satisfied?
because these changes aren't really.
They're not really very material. I mean, they're pretty minor.
Really affecting. Not at all. Number 3, each plan development shall be completed within 2 years of the able. No special use purpose of building permit is issued. Again, not applicable. All landscaping treatment within the plan development shall be provided in accordance with the requirements set forth in Chapter 17, landscaping and screening, and shown on the required landscape plan that shall be submitted as a part of a plan development application. Not applicable. Next slide, please. All right. This is 6-10-1-9B, site controls and standards. For all boundaries of the plan development abutting residential property, that should be provided a transition landscaped strip of at least 10 feet consisting of vegetative screening, fencing, or other decorative walls in accordance with the manual of design guidelines. Not applicable. I'm not going to read each one of these out loud. Number 2, walkways, pedestrians not affected by this amendment, so we're going to say not applicable. Number 3, location, construction, and operation of parking, loading areas, and service areas shall be designed to avoid adverse effects on residential uses within or adjoining the development, and where possible, provide additional parking beyond that required for the planned development to service the business district in which it is located. Okay, so we're not changing the parking that's allocated to the business use for this planned development. So the last part of this requirement is not applicable. We're changing the operation of, well, we're not changing the operation of the parking. It's just who can use that parking. And so I would say this is either satisfied or altogether not applicable. Principal vehicular access points shall be designed to permit smooth traffic flow with controlled turning movements. None of this is being this is being changed. Although now that we're talking about this, I guess this brings to mind an issue that I don't think we covered, which is the applicant mentioned that I believe there are 60 spaces on the ground floor, and currently there is not a gate for that ground floor. We're being asked to approve 85 spaces, which means that some of those spaces will be either on the mezzanine floor or in the basement. And so, with respect to a ground floor space, it would seem to me that this parking wasn't designed for people to, it wasn't designed with a separate foyer entryway for parking. At least I don't recall seeing that in the drawings or when we approved this a number of years ago, because that wasn't this wasn't anticipated. I guess we should just deal with this now, because I think that ultimately, looking at the rest of the items here, that this may be one sticking point that I think we just need to flush out. If someone from outside the building is going to come and park in the parking lot or in the garage, how are they going to leave the garage? Are they going to be walking through drive lanes? Are they going to have access to the foyer? Are they going to have access to, if they park on the garage level or the mezzanine level, access to the elevator? Mr. Howell, can you chime in on this?
Absolutely. Yeah, so the design of the floors, of all the floors really, but in particular the 3 parking levels are such that access is allowed to the stairs and the elevator from every level. There is access control points at the mezzanine level to prevent any outside access without a key fob to get to the residential floors, starting at 2 and above. So effectively, anyone that any pedestrian coming through the garage can get into those stairwells. They can go up to the ground floor and then out the building, either on one side, either through the building lobby. On the other side, it's just a stairwell that exits directly to the street on Emerson Street, to the sidewalk, I should say.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, with that, my concern is addressed. Let's see. I think that affected number 3, but vehicular access points are not being changed here, but the pedestrian traffic issue in number 4 is addressed and satisfied. Plan development shall provide for underground installation utilities, not applicable. Market feasibility statement, not applicable. Traffic circulation impact study, we actually got that here, and I think it's satisfied. And then the zoning administrator may, at his discretion, require of the applicant additional studies or impact analysis where he determines that a reasonable need for such investigation is indicated. This is not applicable. Is there one more slide, Ms. Jones?
No, that's it.
That's it. Okay. So with all that being said, is there a motion on this item?
I move approval of the staff recommendation.
Okay, so Commissioner Linwell motions for approval of the amendment to the plan development with the staff recommendations included. Is there a second on that motion?
A second.
Commissioner Draper seconds. Any discussion on the motion or any amendments thereto? All right, hearing none. Jones, can you please call the roll for the vote on this item?
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Halleck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Chair Isaac.
Yes. All right, congratulations. That will be sent to City Council with Plan Commission's recommendation for approval. Next item is item 5B, which according to staff has been pulled from the agenda and will be rescheduled. Item number 6 is public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make any comment with respect to anything relating to Plan Commission? All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Linwell wants to adjourn. Is there a
I do.
second?
Second.
Draper seconds. Ms. Jones, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Halleck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Chair Isaac.
Yes.
Right.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.